I cut this rock so that I could slide a walnut board in between the two pieces. I secured it with bolts so that I could make a coffee table that looks like a little rock mountain sticking through a wood cloud. This rock is kind of flat but has sort of a weird profile, and I thought it would look best if I could flatten out the bottom and get it to stand upright. I drew a line with a Sharpie and then cut along that line with my angle grinder. Now I can split the bottom off of this 190-pound rock using my rock cleaver. This is all quick and easy, but grinding a perfectly flat bottom takes some time, so instead I'm going to try to use some anchoring epoxy to level out this surface and to keep it from scratching my floors. I used a silicone mat to keep the epoxy from sticking, and now I have a perfectly smooth bottom. I used scrap plywood to make a jig so that I could draw a level line all the way around the top of this little stone mountain. Some of the edges of the stone are thin, so I have to be careful not to shatter it. After a little more grinding, I'm ready to add the wood to this rock sandwich. This walnut board is 1.5 inches thick, and I started by drilling some big holes followed by some smaller holes. This way the heads and washers on the bolts that I'm going to use will sit below the surface of the table. Not only can you cut rocks with an angle grinder, you can actually drill holes with it as well. So I got these long nuts or threaded couplers that I'm going to epoxy into the bottom of the holes in the stone. I duct taped over the ends just so the epoxy doesn't come up and gum up all the threading. This anchoring epoxy is super strong, and now I have a way of securely attaching the wood that's easy to disassemble for when I need to move this heavy piece. Now I can focus on carving the wood. I used my jigsaw to give it a nice elliptical-ish shape, and then went back to the angle grinder to carve out the underside. Carving with an angle grinder is fast, but it does leave the surface a bit rough. I use an orbital sander to smooth out that surface and round over all the edges. I only needed 4 of my Ryobi power tools to make this project. It looks good and I could be done, but the thickness of the wood pushed the stone up and I felt like I lost a little bit of the original design idea. So I decided to make another slice through the stone so that I can better preserve that original profile of the rock. Clamping organic shaped rocks is kind of difficult and you can break the thin edges. So I made a little sandbox to secure this piece while I made that final slice. I epoxied on some washers and a piece of leather on the underside to keep the rock from scratching the wood and to reinforce some of those thin stone edges. I can make 3 of these at different heights using different stones, and the collection will serve as the coffee table at the Reset Hotel, which is coming along nicely.